Well, I think in any adverse situation, you're real technical about it and you correct what went wrong. And there was a lot of plays in that game that we could have played better and could have coached better, and that's the way I approach it. That one game didn't change the scape of college football. The game the next week could have changed the scape of college football. It just so happens that is being pointed at the game that did. So it's unfortunate, and it was unfortunate to lose the football game, and we got to do a better job of coaching and getting our kids in the right spots.
What did you tell your guys after that? And they seem to be such clean slates about it this year.
Well, that one play doesn't lose a game, as much as y'all would like to say it does. That there's a lot of plays that affect a football game, and we played 80-plus snaps that night, and we could have made a lot of other plays in a lot of other situations. So you're technical about what went wrong, and you correct those mistakes. I always tell the players the good plays take care of themselves. Let's correct the negative plays, and that's what we've done.
Because you say one play doesn't lose a game, and you're right, fans can be mean, and there was major emphasis on Gideon and even Earl. How did you treat them after that, and do you think they think about it at all this week, or have they watched it?
Well, as a coach, and even being a young coach, I've been through a situation losing a game at the end before. And, regardless of what happened in the game, those kids know we support them, and we support them. And when we don't play well, it's my fault. And we don't make the play, it's my fault. And when we make plays, it's because our kids did an outstanding job. And that's the way it's going to be at the University of Texas for a long time. That's the way it was when Coach Royal was here, and that's the way it's going to continue to be. And those guys played as hard as they could play. And as long as they play as hard and they give all the effort they can give, then it's on me when we don't have success. And they understand that.
It's going to be a huge atmosphere on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
At least for those of us not playing there, it's going to be a pretty exciting atmosphere. And what do you tell your guys this week about being able to play to that level and just build on what they've had?
Just be themselves. I mean, it's going to be it's always a great atmosphere in our stadium. And just play the next game. Prepare like we did last week, the week before that, and all last season. Let's prepare on Tuesday like we've done all the time. Let's prepare on Wednesday. You don't treat any other game bigger than another one. They're all big. You lose one, you'll find out how big they are. So we're not going to approach this game any differently, regardless of I know we all want to say we do. We're not. We're going to spend the same amount of time at the office. We're going to spend the same amount of time with the players. We're going to install just what we normally install with our players. I mean, we're not going to treat the game differently, and that's how we're going to approach it.
Coach, you don't coach at Tech, you coach here, but can you speak to the Texas Tech quarterbacks year in and year out? They're guys that we don't see at the NFL later on. Are they guys that are products of the system? Are they making plays on schedule, or are they just really good playmakers?
Well, I think that I think Mike Leach does an outstanding job offensively. The numbers speak for themselves. They do a good job of evaluating quarterbacks, and most of those guys are playing in their third and fourth year. They're not playing as a freshman. So they've been within the system of what they do, regardless of what the system is. And so they understand how to manage their system, manage their football team based on where they want to go with the football, and they have a great understanding of where that's supposed to be. I mean, they're good college football players, and I coach college ball, and that's all I'm worried about. So I don't know how the NFL stuff works out.
Do you see differences with Taylor Fox in there?
Well, he's got arm talent. That's one thing that jumps out at you on tape. He's got arm talent. He can make all the throws. He can make the field out. He's got touch. He's a big guy in the pocket. He stands in there, and that's the one thing that jumps out in the first two games. And the games he played last year was arm talent. He certainly has that.
So it seems like the same offense as what you saw last year.
Oh yeah, Mike's going to run his system. He's going to have his tweaks each week, but he does an outstanding job. They get a lot of repetition at what they do, and what they do very well. And looking at last year's game, we gave up too many explosive plays. That was the first thing that really changed the field. You really look at the third or fourth series of the game. We've got them backed up in all third and long situation. We've got a chance to get points, and that was as a turning point in the game to me as there was any in the game, in my opinion. But we've got to do a better job with explosive plays and stopping the run. And when I say run, I'm talking screens, draws, all the different things that they do within to manage down and distance for third down. We didn't do a very good job in the first half, and we did in the second.
Does it help that it seemed like the team got a lot more pressure on the quarterback on Saturday?
Well, I look at every game differently, and we've got and every scheme differently. It's funny. I got a question after the Missouri game. Said, "Does this help you for next week because you dealt with the spread?" I mean, everybody has a different philosophically what they do and what their scheme is and what their structure is offensively. And these two teams, Wyoming and Texas Tech, are different. I mean, they're different in what they do and how they approach you and what they run. So, as far as playing in space, sure, it's great. It's always good to be able to get in space and expose your guys to that in a game day atmosphere. But I don't know how much carries over week to week, other than some things that we think are similar within what we do.
But did you see a vast improvement this Saturday from last Saturday? Were you more impressed with what your guys did?
Yeah, I think number one, we didn't give up any big plays. One scramble was disappointing. We lost a rush lane on the 22-yard run. But we covered well, which we felt like we should have going into the game, and we didn't feel like we shouldn't have given up any big plays in the first game. But we had great pressure in the first game. We didn't get any sacks, and I know that's the most important thing around here. So, but we got some sacks and we got some good hits on the quarterback. And we got good pressure, but we got it in the first game, so I was pleased with that in the first game.
Coach, when you think of the prototypical spread offense, Tech's usually what comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked so much about how the spread has affected defenses. How does Leach's offense, how has it over the years affected your job?
Well, I think that it's not necessarily what Mike does, and he does a phenomenal job. It's the hardest thing for defensive coordinators nowadays is this. Week to week, you face a totally different philosophy. You face a totally different scheme. You go from a Wyoming spread / Missouri, which is more of an empty reload motion, different ideas. Monroe was a one back. They got you some 12 personnel. They gave you some totally different looks. And throughout the season, we're going to face some two-back teams. We're going to face some West Coast. We're going to face some vertical stretch teams. Week to week, it's something different. These offenses are repping the same plays over and over and over again. And defensively, we are adjusting our scheme week to week to get used to what they do. Well, they're really used to what they do. And that's the hardest thing for defenses nowadays is you've got to switch gears week to week within a 3-day period to get ready for a football game and get ready to play a team that's going to execute very well. And you've got to execute very well. And you've got to execute very well versus Tech. So that's the hardest thing right now for defenses is the variety of things you face week to week. And it's tough in a 3 or 4 day work week to get ready for an opponent over something they rep a lot. Well, no, 10 years ago, they were in I-backs and 2 wideouts, and we could have played the game in here. I mean, it just was a different game, and there was not much variety in what people did. You got some wishbone, you got some 2-back, and that's where everybody started and kind of ended. And then all of a sudden, now you've got people all over the field and playing basketball on grass, so to speak, and getting the ball in space to people when you got to make plays. But week to week, it's different. And that's the hardest thing defensively right now, in my opinion, is switching gears week to week and not totally reinventing the wheel for your kids for a new scheme, because you can't do that. You've got to be multiple enough in your scheme to be able to adjust to what people do.
When do you think this changed?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of offensive guys that would love to take the credit for it. But I think that, you look in the – I think Coach Spurrier was a guy at Florida that kind of came in. He was at Duke before that, but went to a lot of the one-back and some of the empty would be what I would be familiar with. And then Rich Rodriguez kind of went from the spread and ran the ball. And I think people have kind of branched from that. But I think you would probably go back to BYU and Lavelle Edwards of throwing the football and their passing concepts, which Mike Leach visited there back when he was coming in the ranks and looked at a lot of their past concepts. So I think that there's a lot of different people that have sort of pioneered their form of spreading the field, and it's all based on what they think is what they got to do to win football games.
Coach, I think after ULM you had said that 20 points was too much to give up based on your standard. Does that shift at all when you're facing a high-powered?
No. Well, 13 points is a game is what we want to give up, and that's if you do that on average through the year, you'll be top 5 in the nation, and that's what we want to be.
Is there anything you want the players to remember about last year, maybe the way they felt walking off the field, that they use that, they don't want that feeling again? Is there anything you want them to remember?
No, I mean I think that you don't want to bring up negative thoughts, and that's a negative, but you want to correct the negative plays. So you talk about what happened, and we've addressed it last season. We've addressed it in the off season. We addressed it in training camp as far as those situations of when they come up, and hopefully we'll coach better in those situations.
Was your foot tapped the whole
most of the time.